At some point in your research into raw feeding, you have probably asked your vet about it, and your vet probably said something like, raw food carries a risk of bacterial contamination. It is not nutritionally complete. I recommend sticking with a commercial. And you walked out of that appointment holding two things that do not fit together: the evidence you have been reading and the advice of the person you trust most with your dog's health. I'm a veterinarian. I have given versions of that same advice, and I want to explain to you clearly and without blaming anyone why most vets say what they say about raw food, what shapes that position, and why it may not be the complete picture you need to make a decision for your dog. I'm Dr. Ghanem, veterinarian, PhD in veterinary microbiology and immunology. I trained in the same system I'm about to describe. That is exactly why I can describe it accurately. If your vet's position on raw food has left you feeling stuck, like you have to choose between the science you are finding and the professional you trust, I want to name that clearly. That tension is real, and it is not a sign that you are wrong to question what you have been told. It is a sign that the information you are getting from two different sources was built on two different foundations. Your vet is not lying to you. Your vet is telling you what their training prepared them to say, and understanding what that training actually covered and what it did not is what resolves the tension. That is what the video is about, not a critique of veterinarians, an explanation of a system and what it means for the advice you receive inside it. Let me start with the most important reframe. When your vet advises against raw feeding, they are almost never doing so because they have reviewed the comparative nutrition literature and concluded that raw food is inferior to processed dry kibble. They are doing so because raw food falls outside what their training defined as safe and complete. That is a meaningful distinction, and to understand it, you need to understand how veterinary nutrition education actually works. In a standard 4-year veterinary curriculum, clinical nutrition, the study of what animals should eat to maintain health, receives between 1 and 2 weeks of dedicated instruction. In some programs, even less. This is not a criticism of veterinary schools. It reflects a historical prioritization of disease diagnosis and treatment over dietary prevention. Vets are trained to intervene when something goes wrong, not to optimize what was right in the first place. With that limited nutritional curriculum, the framework taught to veterinary students is built almost entirely around commercially formulated diets, specifically diets that meet the AFCO complete and balanced standard we have discussed in this series. That standard, as we have covered, defines the minimum nutrient levels required to prevent acute deficiency in a healthy adult dog. It does not assess long-term immune function, gut microbiome, or protein availability. So the vet who advises against raw food is not drawing on a deep well of comparative nutrition evidence. They are applying the framework they have been given, one in which a diet that does not meet AFCO's minimum standards is by definition inadequate. Now here's the part that requires honesty. The companies that produce prescription and veterinary recommended diets your vet is likely to recommend, the Hills, the Purinas, the Royal Canines, are also among the largest funders of veterinary education. They sponsor curriculum development, they fund researchers, they provide student nutrition resources, they run continuing education programs that practicing vets attend throughout their career. I'm not saying this to suggest a conspiracy, I'm saying it because it is the documented fact, one that several veterinary professional bodies have acknowledged and begun to examine. And it matters because the information environment that shapes vets' nutritional understanding is not neutral. It has been constructed over decades primarily by companies with a direct financial interest in the continued dominance of processed commercial diet. The result is a profession that is genuinely expert in disease diagnosis and treatment and genuinely underinformed on the question of species-appropriate nutrition. Not because vets are compromised, because the curriculum they were given was built inside a particular commercial system. Your vet's two specific concerns about raw food are almost certainly bacterial risk and nutritional completeness. Both are legitimate questions. Both have been addressed in detail in earlier videos. The bacterial risk in the video on what safety studies truly measure, and the completeness question in the video on what complete and balanced actually means. What those videos show is that the bacterial risk for a healthy adult dog with an intact gut immune system is largely managed by the dog's own biology, and that the complete and balanced claim does not address the questions that actually matter for a dog with chronic symptoms, gut microbiome diversity, protein availability, inflammatory load. Your vet's concern again, comes from genuine care. They also come from a framework that was not designed to answer the question of what a dog's body was biologically built to run on. Those two things can both be true at the same time. If you want to go deep on the evidence behind what I am covering in this series, the starting point is at drgunaim.com. The link is in the description. Here's what I think the standard should actually be. Nutritional advice for a dog should be evaluated against the biology of that species, its digestive anatomy, its evolutionary diet, its immune system architecture, not against the output of a regulatory framework built to assess commercially formulated food. A veterinarian trained in species-appropriate nutrition would ask, what did this animal's digestive system evolve to process? What inputs does the gut microbiome require to maintain resilience? What does the inflammatory load of this diet look like over years, not weeks? Those questions are not currently part of standard veterinary nutrition education. They are increasingly part of integrative and holistic veterinary practice, a growing field within the profession that approaches chronic disease from a root cause perspective rather than a symptom management. The profession is not monolithic. There are veterinarians who have gone beyond the standard curriculum, who have reviewed comparative nutrition literature, who work with raw-fed animals regularly, and who bring a different evidence base to their recommendations. They exist. They are not the majority, but they are not rare. The standard your dog's health deserves is one that is grounded in biology, and that standard is available. It just may not be in the exam room you are currently sitting in. Here's where I stand. Your vet's advice about raw food, their training, reflects the curriculum they were given. That curriculum was developed inside an information environment heavily shaped by the commercial pet food industry. None of that makes your vet a bad clinician. It makes them a product of a particular educational system, as we are all. What it means for you practically is this: your vet is the right person to assess your dog's clinical health, to run blood panels, to diagnose illness, to advise on medication and surgical decisions. They are expert at what they were trained to do. On the specific question of whether a species-appropriate raw diet is appropriate for your healthy adult dog, their training may not give them the foundation to answer that question comprehensively. And that is not a reason to dismiss them. It is a reason to bring them into the conversation differently. Here's what I want you to do before your next vet appointment. Shift the frame of the conversation. Instead of asking your vet for permission to feed raw, a question that puts them in the position of approving or denying something outside their training, tell them what you are doing and ask them to help you monitor it. It sounds like this. You say, I have been researching raw feeding and I'm going to try a gradual transition over the next 4 to 6 weeks. I know you have concerns and I take them seriously. Here's what I would like you to help me with. What specific markers should I track in a blood panel to confirm my dog is doing well nutritionally? What clinical signs should I watch for that would tell you this is not working for her? That framing does 3 things. It positions you as an informed owner making an active choice, not someone asking for permission they may not get. It acknowledges your vet's concerns as legitimate rather than dismissing them. And it invites your vet to a monitoring role that they are genuinely qualified for, which is clinical assessment, not dietary prescription. Most vets, when approached this way, will engage. They care about your dog, they want to help. What they cannot do is step outside their training and endorse something they were not taught to endorse. But they can absolutely help you track whether what you are doing is working. Write down 2 to 3 specific questions before you go in. Ask about baseline blood work. Ask what they would watch for. Ask how often they would want to see you during the transition. Bring them into the process. The relationship with your vet is one of the most important parts of your dog's healthcare. I'm not here to replace it. I'm here to help you navigate it more clearly so that you can draw on your vet's genuine expertise in clinical assessment while also drawing on the evidence base for species-appropriate nutrition that their training may not have covered. If you want to continue going deeper on this, the gut, the immune system, the evidence behind raw feeding, and what the science actually shows, that is what this channel is built around. Subscribe, and if you have not yet, the starting point for everything we cover here is at drgunaim.com. Link is in the description.